Lately, I've been playing Mario Party Jamboree, and when I came across the cookie cutters minigame, I knew I had to bring it to life by baking real Mario Party sugar cookies. I found these cookie cutters on Walmart and Amazon, and somehow, their sizes matched almost perfectly, just like the cookies in-game. In cookie cutters, players press the corresponding buttons on their controller to stamp out different cookie shapes. Once the round is over, the game shows the finished, iced cookies and counts how many each team completed. For the dough, I'm softening 2 sticks of butter in the microwave for about 20 to 30 seconds. But since microwaves vary, I recommend starting with less time and adding more in small increments if needed. You can also just let the butter sit out at room temperature for a little while before making the dough. Once the butter is softened, I'll measure out my powdered sugar, add the butter to it, and mix everything together. Next, we'll mix up the dry ingredients, starting with measuring and sifting the flour. Just a quick note, this isn't my own recipe. If you want the exact measurements, I'll link it in the description below. Now, we'll add the baking powder and salt. Once that's done, we're ready for the final step before bringing our dough together. For flavor, these cookies use both vanilla and almond extracts. Here, I'm measuring out the two and combining with an egg. Then, I'll mix that into our butter and powdered sugar mixture from earlier. The last step for our dough is to gradually add the flour mixture to the wet ingredients. Our dough is a little crumbly at this stage, so I usually start kneading it to bring it together and get the right consistency. And finally, it's time to roll out the dough and start cutting out our cookies. I like to do this on parchment paper for easy cleanup, and I tuck the edges under my cutting board to keep it from sliding around. I rolled out the dough several times and tried to cut the same number of each cookie shape. It's the next day, which means it's time to make our royal icing. First, we'll add powdered sugar. This is the main ingredient in the icing. Then, we'll mix in meringue powder, which helps the icing harden. By the way, this icing recipe isn't mine either. It comes from the same author as the dough recipe. Her website recommends icing the cookies the next day, so that's what I've always done. Plus, it's nice to break up the work over multiple days. Next, I'm combining vanilla extract with warm water and gradually adding it to the sugar mixture. It's best to do this slowly to get the right consistency and avoid making the icing too runny. Now that our icing's ready, it's time to mix the colors and prep our piping bags. I'm starting with black since I'll be using it for the eyes and outlining the bricks. I want it to be the thickest consistency compared to the other colors. For the rest of our colors, we'll need yellow, brown, tan, red, and white. I'm using Wilton icing coloring, and I'll link it below. Before mixing the rest of the colors, I added a little more water to thin out the icing and get it closer to a flood consistency. By the way, I love these little piping bag clips. They're super easy to use and help prevent icing from spilling all over my arm, which totally happened the first time I tried royal icing. Now that our piping bags are ready, it's time for the final step, icing the cookies. I'm starting with the brown for the bricks so it has time to dry before we add the black outline on top. Next, I'm moving on to the stars, starting with yellow. The yellow and brown icing ended up a little thicker than I had intended, so I'm using my scribe tool to help smooth them out. Next up, our mushrooms. I'm starting with the tan section and letting it dry a bit before adding the red to prevent the colors from bleeding together. Now that I've added the white circles, I'm going back to pipe the brick outlines and the eyes for the stars. Now that the tan and white icing have set, it's time to pipe the red. I'd added a little extra water to my red icing while mixing, and I think this one came out perfectly. I'm still using my scribe tool to smooth it out, but this icing levels itself so much better than the brown and yellow. Finally, I'm adding eyes to the mushrooms, and after sitting for a little while to dry, our cookies are done. They may not be an exact match to the in-game cookies, but they're so close, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more fun projects, don't forget to subscribe.